Hey there. It's me, Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the comment, thanks. On Saturday morning I drove Mom's car down to the theater. I was surprised that it started so easily and had half expected to have to call a cab. I was hungry since there wasn't any fresh food in the house, but I was afraid to stop anywhere for fear that I might be recognized. Marge and Barbara were already at the theater, playing cards in the makeup room. Both stood up as I walked in, and Marge said, "Crystal, darling, welcome home. You look wonderful." Barbara stood up and said, "Ditto, kiddo." I returned their smiles and said, "And you both look wonderful to me," as we hugged. "I've missed you so much since we moved to California. I wish that we weren't so far away. I want you to come visit us when you have a chance. We have a nice big house now with lots of bedrooms. Maybe after I get done with my current picture, you can come out." "No, that won't work. You'll be getting ready for the summer production. After that, if I'm not on location." "That sounds nice," Marge said. "How big is your house?" "So big that you get lost trying to find the dining room and you have to follow your nose." "Is that California or Texas that you're talking about?" Barbara asked. I laughed. "It sounds like a Texas tall tale, but it really is an enormous house. It was built in the 30s, by a movie queen, as her retreat. I guess that back then, California land was cheap, and labor was really cheap because of the Depression." "Whose house was it?" Marge asked. "Bridget LaBarre. I remember seeing some of her pictures. They were mostly made during the silent era. She didn't do too well once talkies caught on. She had kind of a nasal-sounding voice." "Do you remember her, Barbara?"
"Yeah,
I think so. It's been a long time since I saw any of them. They don't play the real old movies on television like they used to. How has everything been going here? How was the last production?" "It's back like it was before Mr. Tucker became the director," Marge said. "Half-filled houses for the first week or two, and then barely enough to bother putting on the shows during the third week." "Why? What's the problem?" "We need a real director. Neil Broderick took over because no one else wanted the job, but he doesn't have the time, or the passion, for it. He doesn't motivate the actors, so the plays are flat. That's a shame. But he's still new. Maybe he'll improve when he sees what the performances are like." "Maybe," Barbara said, "but we're not counting on it. We really miss Mr. Tucker's capable hand on the tiller." "Have you seen him?" "No, I haven't. I haven't been to New York since you gave me his address. We haven't heard from him either. I know that it was hard for him to go. He's probably trying to distance himself from his feelings by focusing away from this town. Then too, there's the fact of his mother passing. He may be trying to avoid thinking about that also. We'll just hope that he comes to grips with his feelings and doesn't forget his old friends. We'll continue on here. Either Neil will improve, or someone else will eventually come along who will put the passion back into our productions. Right now we should do your fitting so that you're ready to accept your Academy Award." I went with Barbara to the wardrobe room and we spent the next few hours on the fitting. Marge joined us after she made a fresh pot of tea. We were done by noon, and I left after hugging both of them and extracting their promise to come visit us in California. I hurried home, closed up the house again, and was ready when the limo arrived to take me to the airport. I was a little nervous traveling by myself and I tried to remain as inconspicuous as possible. I wore my dark wig and sunglasses to avoid having anyone notice me. I even shushed the ticket agent at the airport as she began to say my name. She got the hint and avoided using it after that. When I arrived in Chicago, I went straight to the Admirals Club to await my next flight. By not having to sit out in the concourse seating, I reduced my possibility of being annoyed, or worse. I was recognized by a couple of people in the club, but they only asked for autographs, and they did it politely, so I was happy to oblige. I also finally got a chance to get something to eat. Mom picked me up at the airport and brought me up to the house while I filled her in on all the news from back home that I had been able to learn from Barbara and Marge. Early on Sunday morning, I went to the same hairdresser, Vivian, who had done my hair before the last awards ceremony. I had contacted her as soon as I had been nominated so that I could make the special Sunday appointment. Vivian greeted me like an old friend when I arrived at her closed salon. The last time we had been alone, but this time she had a manicurist there with her. Vivian whispered to me that Helena had begged her to be there when I came. While Vivian worked on my hair, Helena did my hands. When we were finished, I posed for a picture with each of them before saying
goodbye.
They wished me luck at the awards ceremony. Rather than going all the way home only to drive down again, I went to the condo. Mom was already there, having brought the gown with her so that she could work to remove any wrinkles. I was almost ready when Oliver arrived to pick me up. I put on my scent and went out to meet him. He was sitting in the living room with Mom. Oliver stood up as I came out from the hallway. "Crystal, you look beautiful. I love your gown." "Another Barbara DeMilo original?" "What else?" I said as I smiled and walked over to him and gave him a kiss. "It's wonderful to see you again. You look very handsome in your tux." "Thank you." I love that scent that you use. It makes me want to attack you right here." I knew that Oliver was joking, so I said, "You'd better not. We'll be late for the awards ceremony." Mom knew Oliver's humor and laughed before posing us for a few photos. Then we hurried off to the waiting limo. "Your mother has a good sense of humor." I would never have dared say that in front of most mothers. Good thing, most mothers would send you on your way in a hail of loose objects. Oliver laughed. "I always feel very comfortable around your family. I guess that I let myself go." "Just don't let yourself go if my father's around. At least not until he gets to know you." "Your father? I thought that your folks were separated." "They are, but Daddy visits a few times each year. He was out here at Christmas time." "You're lucky. I haven't seen my folks in 2 years." 2 years? Why not? They didn't approve of my wanting to be an actor. What are they, Amish? No, but I sometimes think that they hold similar beliefs. They don't consider an actor's life to be a fitting one. They think that men should do manual work, and women should stay home and care for the family. They're right out of the 30s, despite being born in the 50s and living through the 60s. What does your dad do? He's a dairy farmer. Unlike the Amish, he's not opposed to automation. I was expected to stay at home and marry someone so that our farms could be consolidated into a bigger one. That sounds positively medieval. Did they arrange a marriage for you when you were born? I said, laughing. No, they waited until I was in high school. You're kidding, aren't you? No, not entirely anyway. They actually gave me 3 potential mates to choose from. I was supposed to make a decision before going off to the AG and Tech College, but instead I took the money that they gave me for school and ran away to California. I bummed around for about 6 months trying to get acting work, while I sold t-shirts to survive, and finally landed a tiny part in a television special. That opened the door a little and I finally started landing tiny parts in television shows and movies. Mr. Lewis, Mr. Daniel's partner, happened to be on the set one day and saw my performance. Next thing I knew, I had an agent. Once I had good representation, I started to get parts on a regular basis. What about your folks? I've written several letters home, but they never respond. Once we began our series together, I sent a check for 10 times the amount that they had given me for college, but they never cashed it. I know that they're alive and well, so it must be that they don't want to know me. Or at least that my father doesn't want to know me anymore, since he rules the house with an iron hand. The funny thing is that I could buy them 1,000 times more land than they would ever have gotten by marrying me off to the best prospect, but they won't talk to me. But let's change the subject. We shouldn't be talking about anything depressing tonight. Do you have your acceptance speech ready? Not that I'm going to need it, but I prepared a little speech just in case. You have to think positive. All right, I said, grinning, I'm positive that I'm not going to need it. Oliver laughed. You know what I mean. It doesn't make any difference. The votes are already in and tabulated. Thinking positive won't change who receives the award. I made the mistake once of thinking that I was a shoo-in for something, and then suffered severe depression when CMU rejected me. I won't ever let that happen again, if I can help it. I'm happy and honored that I was nominated, even if I don't get the award. It's not like other contests. People are constantly reminded who the runner-ups were while movie publicity people are on the job. And I'm getting paid very well for doing something that I enjoy. I could easily forego all the publicity and honors. I consider it just part of the job. If I never had to give another interview, I'd be very content. You're wonderful. So many actors just want the publicity, honors, parties and fan adulation. By the way, how's the new picture going? We've only just started rehearsals. It's too early to tell very much, but the script looks interesting. I don't think that it's the type of story that the Academy honors, so I don't expect to get any nominations next year, unless something else comes along. How's your new show going? The critics have been supportive. It's been great. I still want you to do an episode with us. I hope that you have time this year. I'm available as soon as the new movie is done. Make the arrangements with Mr. Daniels. Great. I'll tell the production people. I'm looking forward to working with you again. Me too, it'll be like the old days, at least for a week. We had been so busy talking that we hadn't noticed that we had pulled up to the ceremony until someone pulled open the door. The flashes started blitzing us with light even before we stepped out of the limo. We slowly made our way through the media people outside, stopping for brief interviews every 10 feet, or so it seemed. As always, I was asked about my gown and how I felt about my chances of winning. I praised Barbara and remained non-committal about my chances. We were also asked if Oliver and I were an item since we were seen so often in each other's company. Only in Hollywood would 5 times in 2 years be considered a often. Inside, I was an accepted member of this community by virtue of my movie roles, and especially the nominations. Although I wasn't personally acquainted with most, we behaved as though we were. I'd heard that that's the way that it is with celebrities and politicians. Oliver and I moved slowly through the lobby until we reached the theater entrance, where we were escorted to our seating. Our seats were with the others who had been nominated for awards for their contributions in And the Moons of Capacia. I exchanged greetings with each of the people that I had worked with, starting with Mr. Landois, who always greeted me as a princess. The name had caught on with the entire cast while the movie was being made, and everyone greeted me that way again today. We took our seats and chatted with the people around us for about a half hour before the ceremonies started. As always, the ceremonies were wonderful. It's such an honor to be there in person, which is only by invitation. As the awards were announced, Moons received the awards for music, visual effects, and directing. The Best Acting Awards were always the last to be announced, to maintain the excitement at the ceremony. When they came to the Best Actress award, they played the clips for each of the movies involved, while the cameras recorded the image of the actress. After the clips were done, they opened the envelope and announced that someone else had won. I smiled and applauded as the winner went up on stage and accepted her award. She had done a wonderful job in her role, and I knew that she deserved the award. I applauded again after her short acceptance speech. Alec didn't win the award for his role in Open Spaces, and we shared a quick hug after the ceremonies were over. Everyone was commiserating with the people who didn't win. Some looked crushed, and others pretended not to care a bit, but there is always some effect after coming so close and not winning. The winners were the ones that garnered most of the attention on the way out. Oliver and I left for Mr. Landau's home to attend the party that he was giving, once we finally managed to get to the limo. I had to head back to Vancouver tomorrow, but my plane reservation was for 5 p.m. so I could sleep late. The party was in full swing when we arrived, despite the fact that Mr. Landau's hadn't arrived yet. He was probably still giving interviews over his win. Guests continued to arrive for the next couple of hours. I knew that this party would probably last until sunrise. Mr. Landau's arrived about an hour after Oliver and I did. He quickly got into the festive spirit as he walked around carrying his award. He had done a wonderful job and he deserved all the recognition. I had learned, in my one directing job, how much work it really is. Oliver and I stayed at the party until almost 2 in the morning. Some of the guests were getting quite tight by then, and a little too familiar. Oliver and I had stuck to sparkling water for our beverages. We made the rounds, saying
goodbye
to everyone and congratulating the winners as we prepared to leave. Mr. Landau's thanked me for helping to win him the award by being such a wonderful actress, and we shared a hug before I left. Back at the condo, Oliver walked me to the door, and we kissed. I wished him good luck with his show, and he wished me good luck with my movie. As I got ready for bed, I thought about how Oliver had become such a great friend. Unlike Brad, he didn't treat me like a girlfriend, but rather like a close, personal friend. I felt that I could tell him almost anything, and trust that it would never be repeated, but I still wasn't about to let him know my deepest secret. I slept late but got up in time to have a very late breakfast, while Mom ate an early lunch. She had watched the awards ceremony on television and I filled her in on what I had seen and whom I had spoken with. I told her all about the party and the celebrities and industry people that I had met there. She took me to the airport in the late afternoon to catch my flight to Vancouver. She would be coming up to join Mrs. McGuire and me in a week or so. Elwood met me at the airport in Vancouver, drove me to the rented house, and carried my bags inside before leaving. He'd be back in the morning to take me to the studio. There was a package waiting at the house for me. I opened it up and found a copy of the novel, Weep for the Lonely Hearts. Written inside the front cover was a note by the author. It said, "Dear Miss Ramsey, I read in the paper that you hadn't read my book. I hope that you'll accept this copy and that you enjoy the story. Sincerely, Kate Winslow." We spent the rest of the week, and one more, rehearsing, before beginning to shoot film. The initial sequence of the movie showed me as the daughter of the mob don that would be killed. I rode in bulletproof limos to go shopping, and always had a squad of large men, with visible bulges under their jackets, no more than 10 paces away. Wardrobe always had me dressed in the most feminine clothes possible. I had frequent wardrobe changes and always looked impeccable in very tight, sexy skirts and dresses, and shoes or boots with 4-inch heels. I knew that the director wanted to achieve a dramatic effect of stark contrast when I apparently wore the same dirty, male clothes day after day, once I went into hiding. The scene where my movie father was killed was extremely disquieting. The set was made up to appear as though a bomb had gone off and there was blood everywhere. I became covered with fake blood as I hugged and cried over my father's body. It took 3 takes to get the scene done to Mr. Dressen's satisfaction, and I had to clean up, change, and be made up again between each take. The fake blood was water-soluble, so the clothes would be ready for the next day's shooting. When we began shooting the scenes where I had assumed the male identity, I had to arrive at the set much earlier than usual to be made up. I was fitted with a dark wig that almost gave me a greaser look. A fake nose and more prominent chin were also applied to my face, along with bushy eyebrows and beard stubble. At first everything was extremely annoying, but I slowly got used to them. The worst part was when I had to wear male clothing. The jockey shorts were uncomfortable, perhaps in part because I had to wear a sock in my crotch, and the other clothes were scratched. I couldn't wear my panties because the panty lines would be noticeable under the pants. My 36C breasts had to be strapped down using ace bandages, and a false body piece had to be worn to mask my tiny waist and help make my chest look flat. The combination of appliances was more uncomfortable than any corset I had ever worn. My biggest problem came during our early dress rehearsals. Mr. Charles, the director, kept telling me that I didn't walk like a boy and proceeded to show me, repeatedly, how I should be standing and walking. Sweetheart, you're still walking much too much like a woman. No one is ever going to believe that you're a man. If you can't stop moving your arms, put your hands in your pockets. I want you to slouch more and stop swinging your hips. Widen and lengthen your steps. Remember, men have a very wide stance in order to avoid crushing their testicles with every step. Just pretend like someone is pinching the inside of your thighs with every step that isn't a wide one. And when you stand, show a little attitude, like you're just daring someone to get in your face so that you can kick their ass. You're not a princess anymore, you're an out-of-work drifter. Got it? Yes, Mr. Charles. I'll work on it. Okay, let's try that scene again. We practiced over and over until Mr. Charles felt that I was doing it well enough to shoot some film. He said, well, I guess that it wouldn't be realistic for you to act exactly like a boy at first. The gradual change in your mannerisms might be better. Keep working on it though, and we'll have you acting like a boy in no time. Mom showed up about 5 weeks into the schedule. She was accompanied by a very tall, physically fit man of about 35. Honey, this is Desmond. I hired him to act as your personal bodyguard. He'll never be very far away whenever you're off the estate. We also have a security team at the estate now. They'll protect the property when we're away, and us when we're there. Desmond had rugged good looks, and you knew right off that he was not someone that you wanted to mess with. I estimated his height to be about 6 feet minus 5 inches. He kept his light brown hair trimmed very short, and was clean-shaven. Hello, Desmond. I'm pleased to meet you. In contrast to his rugged appearance, his voice was soft and pleasant. The pleasure's mine, Miss Ramsey. I've enjoyed your movies very much and I'm happy to be working for you. After that, Des became like my shadow, an image that was further enhanced by the fact that he frequently wore black pants, a black turtleneck, and a black sports coat, or black leather coat. He stationed himself at my dressing room door when I was inside, and followed me around the studio during the day, but always at a discreet distance. At night he checked all the windows and doors after walking the grounds outside the rented house, and was always the first one up in the morning. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment, thanks.